Hi friends, this is Meredith from the Papery Craftery. Today I'm going to be making some dragonflies, and I'm putting this video on today because I'm going to be using a quilling comb for their leaves. And I had this post for a long time. I will link to my website where you can see the written directions as well. But it's just a great time since I just made a post about how to use a quilling comb in 4 different ways. This is one of those 4. So we'll put that now, and I hope you like it. For my dragonflies, I'm using 2 different colors for the head, body, and tail, and that's going to be black and also a color called orchid, which is this light purple. And then I need my needle tool, a little bit of clear glue, and I'm also going to be using this metallic edged paper called Touch of Gold. It's ivory paper with a gold metallic edging, and that's what I'm going to be using for the dragonfly wings. The first part of the dragonfly that I'm going to demonstrate is going to be the tail. And the tail has 3 parts. The first part is going to be a 5-inch strip of black quilling paper. The next part is going to be 3 inches of the orchid paper. And then I'm going to need another 2 inches of the black paper. So to start making the dragonfly tail, I'm going to make a little pile of the clear glue on my workstation so I can just dip a tool in later and use that. And I'm going to start by rolling the 5-inch strip of the black quilling paper on my needle tool. And I'm going to be making a tight coil, which means I'm not going to let the coil loosen up at all before I glue it. I'm not going to let it open up in any way. I'm going to keep it on the tool and glue the end right down so that it all stays together. Next, I'm going to dip the 3-inch strip of orchid paper in a little bit of the glue and stick that to the side of the black coil. And then I can let that sit for just a second and then start winding it around the coil. It's okay if it comes off your comb, or sorry, your tool at this point. You can do this by hand. It'll work out just fine. Another little dip in the glue and let that end set. And then you're going to do the same exact thing with that tiny piece of black paper. So when you're done, you should have a tight coil that has a black center and then a small ring of the orchid and then another outer ring of the black paper. I also like to push this up a tiny bit in the center just to give it a little bit more dimension. For each dragonfly, you are going to need 7 of these coils, and they all have the same measurements, and they are all made exactly the same way. The next part we're going to work on is the dragonfly head and the dragonfly body. The body's going to come first. You need 2 8-inch strips of the black paper, and then for the head, you're going to need 1 6-inch strip of black paper as well. And starting with the head, you're going to want to roll that on your needle tool all the way to the end. And when you get there, you can slide it off, let it open up a little bit in your hands, and glue the end down. And again, I'm using clear glue because I'm using black paper. Whenever I try to use regular glue, no matter how hard I try, I still end up with little white bits on a dark paper. So any dark paper I use clear glue. Once that shape is dried, you're going to pinch one side into a teardrop and then simultaneously pinch the top down a little bit on both sides. It's going to make sort of a rounded triangle shape. You can set that aside, and then you're going to roll the two halves of the body. So starting off the same way, roll on your needle tool from top to bottom and take that off of your tool, let it open up a little ways. Glue the end. And this time it's going to just be pinched into a teardrop. That just means you just have to pinch one side. And then just repeat that same steps for the other half of the body. When all the parts are made, you can start building your little dragonfly's body. So to begin, I'm going to put the two teardrops together with a little bit of clear glue. So set those together so the points meet, and then with a little bit more clear glue on the bottom point, you're going to attach the head right where the body meets. Next, you can build your dragonfly tail. So again, we're using 7 of these coils. You could just make a straight tail, but I think having it curved off to one side just makes it look a little bit more interesting. So starting with some glue right at the bottom of the body, I'm just going to connect these coils one by one. And since it takes a couple seconds for the glue to dry, you will be able to move your tail a little bit if you find that one isn't really in line the way you want it, or you want your curve to go a little bit more. You will be able to move these just a little bit. The dragonfly wings are going to be made on a quilling comb. I just made a video about different ways to use a quilling comb, and I will link to that in the description box down below. First, I rolled the strip a couple of times on a needle tool to make what I call an anchor, and that is what I placed on the first rung of the comb. And I'm going to take the rest of the strip, pull it up over 2 spaces, pull it back down and behind, and then I'm just going to gradually go up 1 more space every pass until I have made 6 loops. So again, I have the anchor, then I skipped 1 space, and then I looped up and over 6 times. Tear off the excess, set that aside, and glue the remaining paper to the bottom just to keep the shape. And you can go ahead and remove that wing pretty quickly from your quilling tool. There's also going to be 2 wings on the top that are made with 8 loops instead of 6 loops. And you can see that the ones on the top are sort of bowed with a flat part on the bottom and then a rounded part to the top. So to make this, I sort of smooth and pinch the wing while bowing and pushing down on one side. And that makes one end flat, and when I pull it apart, it has the other end have that bowed effect. So there's the flat side, and then the bow is on the bottom now. So the top wings are going to have the bow on the top, the bottom wings are going to have the bow on the bottom. That might take a little practice, but I know you guys can get that done. So after your wings are done, you are ready to put together your entire dragonfly. So you should already have your body and tail together. And I'm choosing to use some pins here just to keep everything in place. It's not necessary, but it's easier than having everything sort of move around a bit on you. So again, with some glue, I am going to add a little bit to one part of the big wing, and I'm going to put that between the head and the body, and then the bottom half of the wing on that side goes right underneath. I'm going to do the opposite on the other side. A little bit of glue right between the head and the body, and then with the small part of the wing right underneath, just tuck that in there. Go ahead and use a little bit more pins here if it's going to help you keep your dragon in shape while it dries. No harm in that. It'll keep the wings together a little bit. You can move those around. And then when the glue dries, it'll be exactly in the shape that you want. For one last little detail, you can take a small scrap of your black quilling paper, about a ½ inch or so, fold that in half to make a V, dip it in some glue, and add it to, the top of your insect for some little antenna. When your glue has dried, just take the pins out of your dragonfly and remove it from your workboard. If it does get stuck here and there, I usually use my needle tool and just sort of run it underneath, and it separates pretty easy. And in the right light, you can see how the wings look a little sparkly, sort of a gossamer effect. I think the metallic paper really makes these look pretty special. This other dragonfly has a rose gold tipped paper on the wings, and you can see there's no antenna there, so personal preference, goes either way. I've also made them with blue paper before, but I think I like the black, I think, the best. So you can make these dragonfly wings on any quilling comb that you feel comfortable with. If yours doesn't look like this, that's okay. If you have something smaller, your dragonfly might be smaller, or you might want to use more teeth as you're making it, make it a longer wing. That might be something you have to play around with. So the sizing of all the paper that I'm using is to go with this type of onion holder quilling comb. So that might have to be adjusted for what you have. But I hope you enjoyed this one, and if you did, leave a thumbs up. If you have questions, as always, leave comments. If you have something else you'd like to see me work on, let me know that too. I will do my best. And don't forget to subscribe. That's all I have for today. Thanks so much. See you later.